Hi guys, my name is Crystal. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I wanted to read a piece out in the Mail on Saturday, page 38 and 39. What the Queen told me about Charles's marital misery, Diana's drunken mother, and how she warned, "Do be careful, there are forces at work in my country of which even I have no knowledge." And this is written by former royal butler Paul Burrell. Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, is there. So let's go on and read it, shall we? This is Paul Burrell speaking. So, in the dock, the Queen helped clear Paul Burrell's name. So, this is about Paul Burrell, right? Diana's butler. My trial at the Old Bailey was set for Monday, 14th of October 2002. I was a nervous wreck as I heard the charges read out. To each count I replied, "Not guilty." Over and over, the Crown Prosecution Service argued that I had not told anyone I was taking items for safekeeping. I wanted to scream. I had. It was so incredibly frustrating to have to listen to falsehoods about me. The year before, on 16th of August 2001, I had been charged with stealing 315 items from the estate of my late employer, Diana, Princess of Wales, 6 items from Prince Charles, and 21 items from Prince William. If I was found guilty, I would serve up to 5 years in jail. The police had torn my home apart like a burglary in reverse. Items that Princess Diana and Prince Charles had given me and my family over the years were all taken away, including clothes, shoes and handbags that Diana had gifted to my wife, Maria, and a writing bureau she had given one of my sons. In January that year, shortly after the police raid, one of Prince Charles's advisors suggested that I write a letter to him explaining why the property was in my house as a step to sorting this out. My solicitor and I wrote to the Prince saying my intentions were honourable. We said that I had been entrusted by the Princess to be the caretaker of sensitive items, as well as there being many items which were gifts. I begged for a meeting to straighten out the confusion, but Prince Charles did not hear my pleas. The letter was read by St James's Palace, but not by Charles himself. This was a missed opportunity, as the prosecution would go on to build their case on the theory that I had not told anyone of my intention to remove items from Kensington Palace for safekeeping, but this was incorrect. Not only had I told Charles in that letter, I also wrote to William in April 2001 while he was on a gap year, telling him the same thing, and I had first mentioned it to the Queen, as I'll later explain, shortly after Diana's death in December 1997. In the months following Diana's death, I spent my days cataloguing and packing away every item in the princess's world. But by December of that year, 1997, I was feeling alone and vulnerable. I was worried. First, that after I had finished the packing and sorting, I would be homeless and unemployed after years of living and working at Kensington Palace. And second, I was concerned that not enough was being done to protect Diana's legacy. In fact, I felt that it was at risk of being destroyed. Who could I turn to? I wrote in my diary. Who would listen? There was only one answer: Her Majesty the Queen. I rang her loyal right-hand man, Paul Wybrew, known affectionately to everybody at Buckingham Palace as Tall Paul, and asked if I could see her. The answer came back the next day: The Queen will be delighted to see you at 2 p.m. on Friday, December the 19th. Much later, Paul told me I was the topic of conversation that evening. She was dining alone, and as he served her candlelit dinner, she said, "I am not surprised to hear from Paul. I feel very sorry for him." The conversation that follows is part of a contemporaneous note of my meeting with the Queen. It is a first-hand recollection of what she said to me. At approximately 1:30 p.m. on December the 19th, I walked down Buckingham Palace Road with mixed emotions of nerves and excitement. It had been 10 years since I had seen the Queen. I entered the side door of the palace. The policemen were friendly and chatty. "You know your way," they said. I have never recounted much of my conversation with the Queen that day, but I now feel the time is right. It sheds a light on her character. I was concerned that the Queen had no idea what was happening inside Kensington Palace. That room in Buckingham Palace was familiar to me. The decor, a mix of grey and salmon pink, was exactly the same. Everything was in the same place. Her pile of Telegraph crosswords, her dog treats, her magazines. There she stood, a little older, a little greyer, wearing a blue dress, 3 rows of pearls, and a huge heart-shaped diamond brooch. She approached me, shook my hand and smiled. "Hello, Paul. How good of you to come and see me." She inspected me over her half-rimmed spectacles. I had changed too over the past 10 years. "It's a very strange business," the Queen said, opening the conversation. "Has anyone been to see you at the apartment?" She asked. "Oh, William and Harry have," I told her. "They have been to see what they would like to furnish their new apartment at York House. At the moment they are fighting over a giant stuffed hippo." The huge plasma television has been very popular with both boys. William was very practical in his choices, Your Majesty, and interested in furnishings. "Yes, he is very practical," she said. "I am pleased that he has addressed that. It's so unsettling for William and Harry, and it will be good for them to be surrounded by familiar things." I told the Queen I was very grateful to have been included in so many decisions since the Princess's death, but that I had grave concerns. "Oh," she said, "what would they be?" There was so much that I wanted to tell her. "Well, the family have been through all the Princess's personal belongings and have taken away a great deal of her property, much of which I believe William and Harry should have. I was asked to bring down her monogrammed luggage, which was filled with her clothes, and Mrs. Shan Kidd Frances, Diana's mother, sits on the Princess's settee sorting through papers and shredding personal correspondence, including letters from you. That shredding machine is smoking, Your Majesty." The Queen laughed out loud. I continued, "So I have taken it upon myself to rescue documents which I think are important. I could not stand by and watch history be erased or the Princess's world changed. She had fought so hard for the little privacy that she had, and I have kept safe the personal items which she entrusted to me and were locked in my filing cabinet in the pantry." The Queen raised her eyebrows but said nothing. "Frances has rung me on occasion," she then said. "May I say that you were very brave to be in, Your Majesty?" I replied. The Queen chuckled, but I couldn't always understand what she was saying as she was so drunk. "Well, she has worked her way through most of the Princess's Montrachet Chardonnay wine," I said. The Queen wasn't finished yet. "I have known that family for a very long time. They are quite extraordinary. I remember when Frances left Johnny and ran off to Australia, leaving the children behind. That was the first time that I had seen a family break apart. It was so sad and destructive." The Queen shook her head. She was in deep thought. "It's all such a dreadful business. Diana was such a complex and complicated person. What she did best of all is connect with people. She was at home with people less fortunate, people wanting. She had an affinity with people. She could talk to anyone and often told me that she enjoyed that." She continued, "I remember walking with the dogs on the hillside at Balmoral when I was much fitter, and I bumped into Charles walking alone. He had tears in his eyes. 'What on earth is wrong?' I asked him. He replied, 'Oh, it's Diana. She is so impossible at times. I just don't understand her.' So Paul, even in those early days, life was difficult. I realised that I was listening to the confessions of a queen and that I was stepping into very personal territory. Our queen was opening up to me like never before. I needed to respond. Your Majesty, can I just tell you that the princess always had a place in her heart for the Prince of Wales. As I have been packing away her life at Kensington Palace, I have seen so many pictures of them all as a family and many of just the boys and their father. If she had been a bitter woman, then she would have destroyed them or cut his face out of them. The Queen smiled and understood. We talked of many things that afternoon. We talked of the dreadful day Diana died and what I witnessed in Paris before the arrival of the Prince of Wales and Diana's sisters. It must have been awful for you, she said. I talked of the many people with whom I had spoken and seen, at which point she offered me a stark warning. Do be careful. There are forces at work in my country of which even I have no knowledge. I realised that the meeting was coming to an end. The Queen had been incredibly warm, friendly and open. She approached the desk and pushed the button on her bell. I could hear a faint buzz outside in the pantry. I knew that my audience was over. Before Paul reappeared, as if by magic, the Queen said, "Happy Christmas to you and Maria, and please keep in touch." I bowed, turned and left her sitting room. I would never see her again, but that conversation changed the course of my life. On Friday the 25th of October 2002, while the trial continued, the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh and Prince Charles were en route to St Paul's Cathedral for a memorial service for the victims of the Bali bombing. The conversation that ensued would prove critical to my trial. The following Tuesday, Mrs Justice Rafferty informed the jury that there had been a delay and that the trial had been adjourned for the day. We were then told that the court would not be sitting for another 2 days. I was beside myself with worry. When we arrived at the Old Bailey on All Saints' Day for the trial to restart, we heard that something was happening, and it was big. The prosecution barrister, William Boyce, rose to his feet. "My lady, it has been an important part of the prosecution case that there was no evidence that Mr Burrell informed anyone that he was holding any property belonging to the executors of the estate of Diana, Princess of Wales," he said. "On Monday of this week, the prosecution was informed by the police that during a private meeting with the Queen in the weeks following the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, Mr Burrell mentioned, I don't think I took the rest of what he said, but it turned out that during the journey to the Bali bombing memorial service, the Duke of Edinburgh had mentioned to Charles that the Queen had been told by me that I had taken documents for safekeeping. Prince Charles informed his private secretary, who was able to confirm this account with the Queen. St James's Palace then reported this new evidence to Scotland Yard. William Boyce finished by saying, "I invite the jury to find him not guilty," and the judge smiled and said, "Mr Burrell, you are free to go. The Queen had saved me." 7 years ago, I stood on Castle Hill in Windsor at the wedding of Prince Harry. The boy I watched grow up and his future wife Meghan. The nation rejoiced and embraced the fairy tale. We were all happy for Harry, especially me, having witnessed his pain after the death of his mother firsthand. Meghan seemed to have saved him, but how could it have gone so horribly wrong? And how did the couple squander so much goodwill from the royal family and the nation so quickly? In the early days of their engagement, Harry and Meghan were given Nottingham Cottage, a rose-covered one-level house with 2 bedrooms, a sitting room and a kitchen which faced the front door of his mother's apartments at Kensington Palace. It was the home of William and Kate in the early days of their marriage, as well as that of Princess Diana's sister and her husband, who was a private secretary to the Queen, and nestled alongside Kent Cottage, a similar residence which was once the home of the Duke and Duchess of Kent. It was small but cosy, enough for a couple embarking on a journey through life. The fairy tale cottage wasn't a royal residence though, as Meghan discovered when she and Harry were invited to dinner with Harry's brother and his wife, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, at their home apartment, 1A in Kensington Palace. This was the former residence of Princess Margaret, the Queen's sister, and was very much a palace. They even had a ballroom. The Cambridges had a corner of the state apartment so that they could entertain. Only the black and white tiles in the hallway remained from Princess Margaret's original interior decoration. It had been entirely refurbished. It was a far cry from the two-bedroom cottage only 200 yards away. This may be where the trouble began. Perhaps the problem was that Meghan would always have second billing to the future Queen Catherine. Being American, she struggled to understand the culture of the royal establishment with its rules and protocols. But I was shocked and saddened to hear that they were to leave the royal family in January 2020. Diana would have wanted Harry to stay to protect and defend his brother and be his wingman all the way to the throne. If only she had been here to advise her second son, history may have been different. They could have had it all. The Queen was at the same opinion. She wanted them to stay, but she was born into an Edwardian court and was nearly 60 years older than Harry. Her Majesty had lived in a different world from her grandson. How could the Queen understand all of Harry's problems? She couldn't. They did, however, have a special relationship, particularly because Harry was something of a joker. He didn't always adhere to protocol. Everyone was very stiff and starchy around the Queen, which she disliked, but he was relaxed and funny. Everybody else was too busy standing upright and bowing, whereas Harry would say, "Oh, Granny, how are you?" And he would grab her hand. She was very fond of her grandson. The Queen loved the warmth and tactile presence that Harry brought into her life. There is no doubt in my mind that she didn't want Harry and Meghan to leave. She did not want Megxit, as it was dubbed, as she knew they would be estranged from her world. The Queen even said to Meghan, you can go back to acting if you want to. She was willing to bend the rules for Meghan and offered to talk to her whenever she had problems. It says the Queen slept in a snood here. The Queen had to change her clothes regularly. She would get up and put one dress on, change for an engagement, get back into her original dress on a return, and into another one for the next engagement. She would always change again for dinner. She never bathed in the morning. She was of a generation who only ever bathed in the evening. And she never showered, whereas Prince Philip preferred to shower. Every Monday afternoon on her return from Windsor to Buckingham Palace, her hairdresser, Mr. Charles, would be waiting to give the Queen her weekly shampoo and set. Her Majesty slept in a snood to keep her hair in place. So tomorrow's newspaper is going to be Diana's barbed response to Al Fayed's indecent proposal. So there's Meghan and Harry. So this is written by Paul Burrell, Diana's butler. So that's what I've been reading from. It's a picture of our late Queen. So Paul Burrell is writing about the royals in the Daily Mail newspaper this Saturday.